An audit by TARP's Inspector Generals reveals that the administration's push to expedite the closing of auto dealerships faster than automakers originally wanted may have resulted in increased unemployment. Now, the report also notes that the administration pushed Chrysler and GM to model themselves after foreign companies, a decision that many experts warned against and which ultimately proved disastrous. Now, the report states, quote, Treasury made a series of decisions that may have substantially contributed to the accelerated shuttering of thousands of small businesses, potentially adding tens of thousands of workers to the already lengthy unemployment rolls, all based on a theory and without sufficient consideration of the decision's broader economic impact. So it's a little ironic, given the federal government's admiration for foreign car companies, that the anointed one invited a laid-off Honda employee on stage with him when he pushed for an extension of unemployment insurance. Take a look at this.
We need to pass it for men like Jim Chukalis, who's with me here today. Jim worked as a parts manager at a Honda dealership until about 2 years ago. He's posted resumes everywhere. He's gone door to door looking for jobs, but he hasn't gotten a single interview.
All right, joining me now with analysis is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Culture of Corruption. Michelle Malkin is back with us. Michelle, you have a great piece on this. Everything you need to know about the nightmare of government-controlled business can be found in a damning new Inspector General's report on Dealergate. You go into great research. Explain.
Well, I urge every American to look up this report on the Treasury Department TARP Inspector General's website. I have it linked up on my site at michellemalkin.com. It's 45 pages, and it gives you a very grisly and horrific picture of what happens when you put government know-nothing bureaucrats in charge of running massive major industries. In short, these people do not know what the hell they were doing. And in fact, what guided them, it's buried at the end of the report, was not anything that had to do with economics or analysis or a rational basis for ordering these car companies to expedite the blanket closure of literally thousands of dealerships across the country. No, the bottom line is that you had a far-left radical union attorney, Ron Bloom, who was named the manufacturing czar under the Obama administration, say, and I quote, that they really didn't need to have this dealership closure component in the restructuring plan, but leaving it out would have been, quote, inconsistent with the president's mandate for shared sacrifice. In other words, they saw it as their social justice. It's absolutely damning. They saw it as their social justice duty to punish thousands of small business owners and their employees to make sure that there was equity between the punishment that was spread among union officials and the rest of American economy.
You talk a lot about their incompetence. You talk a lot about the hubris. You talk about their big labor considerations, because that's a big part of the base of the Democratic Party. But what's interesting about this, and I think it's a telling tale, because they did this all under the guise, the greatest intentions. We're here, we're going to save the auto industry here. What are we, $80 billion later? What have we gotten for our money? What jobs were saved? What did it do for the car companies?
Well, there again is a very damning indictment, not from Republican leaders, not from folks like us on the right, but these are indictments that come from the independent watchdog at the Treasury Department, Neil Barofsky, who puzzled over the inconsistency and the contradiction between the Obama administration, which was spending billions, hundreds and billions, nearly trillions of dollars trying to stimulate the economy and save jobs, at the same time that they were ordering these car companies to rush the closure of these dealerships with no rational basis whatsoever. Yeah. And the report goes into detail as they try and figure out and interview experts on how they came up with this plan to shorten and narrow the timeline for these closures when it didn't make any sense to people who knew what they were doing.
It's amazing to me, because isn't this indicative? Why would we expect any other result than what they had? Now, look, they also concluded here, the Inspector General noted that it's clear tens of thousands of dealership jobs were immediately put in jeopardy and lost. all across the country, all these dealerships closed. All these people, all
Yes.
these mechanics, all these salespeople, all these service people, they all lost jobs as a result of this, and they didn't listen to the car companies, because the car companies, as you point out, produced their own plan. Why was their plan ignored? Because they're on the ground. You would think that they know better.
Yeah, well, it was an ideological agenda, and I thought it was perfect that you ran that clip of Obama and his sanctimony attacking the Republicans. He actually said this during that same appearance where he dragged that Honda parts dealer up on stage. He told the Republicans, wagging his finger, stop holding workers hostage to politics. Look in the mirror, thug-in-chief, because that's exactly what you're doing with schemes like this. I mean, it's the Obama administration that has its government boots on the necks of American small business owners who are now wrapped up in massive, costly litigation trying to appeal these closures, which were done, as the TARP Inspector General said, for no rational reason.
I like your last line, because we now have chronicled how many people in the administration that talk about redistribution of wealth, their socialist, redistributive model, the Keynesian belief, and you say social justice. Chickens have come home to roost. The only problem is now people lose their jobs. Now the economy is suffering. What's the net result of government-controlled social justice, but not prosperity, but poverty?
It's a huge death toll, and the wreckage, it really needs to be told. We need to have more of these victims stand up and be counted.
All right, Michelle, always good to see you. Thank you for being with us.